Hi there, so I'm here with Rosie the Closer, from CEO of Compelling Conversations. Tell us a little bit about Compelling Conversations. What company, what do you guys do, what's your focus?
Sure. Oh, okay. And thank you. So Compelling Conversations is a communication, organizational training and marketing consulting company. And on the both ends, the concentration is really to create a profile in order to reach your target audience, or in order to train them to effectively get business results.
What are some of the strategies that you use to help a business find their target audience?
Well, I think so. What happens is a lot of businesses want to sell their services or products to everyone. And what they don't do is they don't do what the big companies do. What the big companies do is they do market research. And when they do market research, they profile their ideal client. And if you profile your ideal client, then you're able to create specific language for that target market.
So it's kind of important to do like focus groups and maybe write out an outline, and because it's true, a lot of people, you know, just like I just want as many people as possible to see it. Why is it so important though to focus and to really find your niche?
Well, so I have a saying, so your marketing research determines your marketing message, and your marketing message determines your sales. And when your sales are down, you don't really go back to the marketing message. There's something wrong with your research. So you miss something in the research portion that basically you're not addressing in that message. And the reason it's important to target is because then it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to build a following that loves you and that says you're talking to me directly. Like let's say women. If we were doing something for women, they want to hear certain messages that are targeted to their issue, to their problem. So, and I always tell company, you can't resolve all the problems in the world. What is one problem or issue that your company resolves, and then that makes your marketing easier.
How important is it for companies to be involved in social media and have a presence on social media these days?
Wow, that's a great question, and I'm actually an expert on social media. I think I spoke on the panel earlier about the power of your brand, and I think especially for Latino-owned businesses, it's really, really important to start developing that relationship. For example, especially if you're a brick and mortar, like restaurants, it is so important that you are on social media, that people know, you show pictures of, the dish of the week, but then also that they get to know you personally as a business owner. A lot of people want to separate those. You don't separate them, because you are the brand. If you own a business, you are the brand first. They meet you first.
So you think it's important to sort of have the conversation and engage with your audience, as opposed to just being behind the scenes and letting the team do the work?
Absolutely. I think one of the things that social media has changed is that before you can hide behind the scenes. And before, you see it with big companies now, even with CEOs putting videos on Facebook so that people get to know them personally. Because people now, the way the buyers buy now is they buy based on what I call values and experience. Do your values align with mine? Let me give you an example. If you were owner of company X, and it turns out that you are an avid hiker, all of a sudden somebody's going to see that and they're going to love you because you're a hiker and they're a hiker, and they relate to that, and all of a sudden they're going to say, you know what, let me recommend your business. Even if they're not directly a client, they're going to feel that emotional connection with you because you have something so personal and ingrained that they identify with.
Something that sort of resonates, that there's an emotional attachment. And do you think that it's an advantage or a disadvantage to post on a daily basis? Do you think it's better to do it more often, or maybe once a week? Like, what's the right amount of time to post on social media?
Yeah, are you asking to post on a personal or a business?
On a business page.
Okay, so a business page, and I consult companies on this, and then sometimes I create, their campaigns, is very important to have what's called a marketing calendar for social media. Let's say you sell flowers, okay? You should start talking about the flower business, and you don't talk about Mother's Day and say, hey, we're having a great sale and it's May, right? You really start engaging and talking about the importance of mothers, providing value about mothers maybe in March or April. And I tell businesses, you don't post every day, and here's why. people's brains are so inundated with information. It's better to post, I would say, every second or third day. For businesses who just got started, I tell them, don't overwhelm yourself. Post once a week, and then you build it up, because you can't just post just to post. You need to say, what are we delivering? What's the message, and how is that message going to be tied to our sales? But then we don't want to be salesy. So what do we want to concentrate on? You know, the other thing is I advise businesses to co-brand with nonprofits or, you know, community events that are going on, and that gives them great branding. And then basically the rule goes like this: you do maybe 3 to 4 posts, and then you present a sales connection, right? Either, hey, we're having a deal. With the mistake I see with a lot of Latino businesses is that they'll post 5 posts on some sale they're having or some special, and you need to have value added things that they get to know the company, they get to know you, and then you do maybe at the 5th one something that's coming up that's reminding them.
That's great information. But does that change? Because you asked business or personal. So does it change when you're trying to build a personal brand?
Well, so personal brand, I would say it's the same. I mean, for me personally, I only post maybe, again, every second day, every third day, because you need to give people time to digest.
A little breathing space.
Yeah. And what happens is that if, like for me, personally, for my brand, I will never post everything that I'm doing. No, I'm very conscientious. Most of the stuff that I post is I'm speaking at this conference, I'm with these people, I'm, you know, again, the co-branding, but I don't post everything in my life that's going on, because again, I'm creating a brand, and it's a personal brand. I post about things that are important to me. You know, education is very important to me. So if you look at my brand online, you'll see a lot of stuff having to do with professional development, self-development, education, and I hardly ever post anything having to do with politics or anything that's going to incite people to be upset.
And there's definitely the idea of oversharing. A lot of people go on there and will post emotional issues, or and I feel like there's a lot more you can tell from a person with their posts than what they're actually saying. How do people kind of become educated about what's okay and what's not okay? Because social media kind of just hit us, right? We never learned, like, okay, this is what you do, this is what you don't do. Like most of us, we just kind of are doing what we want with it, right? So how do people find ways to learn the proper way of using social media?
So I think, again, you have to, well, number one is you have to be conscious that whatever you post on social media, it's there forever. Like, that's staying there forever and ever and ever, okay? So you have to take a step back, and your feed is like a newspaper feed. Would you want everyone in the world to know about something personal? Now, I think it's important to get personal, but then also to realize, do people really need to know this? How important it is? I'll give you an example. I had a near-death experience 7 years ago, and I post about what I went through in the operating room and how it was when I woke up. And it was very personal, but I don't post those personal things all the time. It was important to me. It changed my life. So I would say you're going to touch people's hearts with something that it's going to be memorable and that really has defined you, right? Like if you post, how emotional, how great it was when your first child was born. Talk about that, let people know. But I wouldn't do like people who go on there and they do rants or they say, today, I'm upset. I wouldn't do that. You know why? Here's, studies show that people on social media react to happy shares.
And what about, a lot of times there are postings that will create comments and sort of dialogue within the comments if somebody doesn't agree with an idea or with a concept. What do you think? Do you think that it's better to kind of avoid those sort of situations and get into discussions on someone's comment page?
You mean, let's say, should people get involved in commenting on other people's feeds?
Sort of when the comments start sort of a conversation, but it becomes more aggressive, and then it goes back and forth. Sometimes I'll post something, and then people will go on, and they're talking to each other in my comments under my post. And sometimes I see something that I don't, agree with someone else, and I kind of want to start saying something, but I hold back because I don't want to start, one of those dialogues. But so, what do you think? Do you think it's better to, for personal branding purposes, not become engaged in those type of situations?
I think for personal branding purposes, it's important not to become engaged, especially if you don't like the dialogue. I mean, I have never had an issue with that because I think it all starts specifically with your message, right, and the message you present. And if the message you present is such that, because I think you can create messages that influence other people to have certain dialogues, right? So that's why I tell people don't talk about inflammatory things.